special guest. She is educator, an artist, and of course, an author too, and the author of the book Down on the South Beach Drag. No other than Miss Mary Kathleen Mehuron.
Pretty good.
Welcome, Miss Mary on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure. First of all, my name is very difficult. Every day of my life, people make mistakes because I'm of Irish descent. So you have to call me either Mary Kathleen or Kathy. And
Yes.
you can't believe the variety that people come up with. And then I married into the Mehuron family, and no one can pronounce that name. I think you did really well with it.
Thank you.
So, introduce myself. Okay, I have lived a long life, and there have been very clear stages in my life. For decades, I was a math teacher. And an unfortunate thing happened. I got actually really quite sick. I had pretty nasty cancer. That was 24 years ago, though. I'm still here and I'm healthier
Yes.
than I was then. Um, but I taught for years and years. And when I was sick, they couldn't guarantee me much time. So I thought I should write down the story of my life because I have three sons. And I know that when you get older, you start saying to yourself, oh, I should have asked my parents about that. And usually by the time you think it, they're gone. And so I thought, well, I'll write the story of my life down. And what happened was a New York Times bestselling author lives here in our little town, and our town is so small we don't even have a traffic light. We're a rural community, so to have a writer of that caliber in a little town is it's really interesting. And he heard my son talk about the book I was writing, and he said to me, "Can I read it?" And I was absolutely horrified because at that point I was a closet writer. I wouldn't think of myself as an author. I was just doing this for my children. And Jim actually loved the book. He took me out for a cup of coffee and he said, "You're going to have to work really hard, but I think you have something." And that conversation gave me permission to try to become an author. I will tell you that I've just published the seventh book I've written in 9 years. And I only just now think of myself as an author. It took all of it, the sort of the pile on of the experiences for me to give myself permission to be an artist.
Miss Mary Kathleen Mehuron, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the
Thank you.
world.
Thank you.
Can you give a brief overview of what's novel's plot without giving away any major spoilers?
Sure. So, Down on the South Beach Drag is a lyric from a Bruce Springsteen song. And in order to publish this book, I actually had to get permission from him because his song titles, the epigraph of the book is lyrics from the same song, which is 4th of July in Asbury Park, also referred to as Sandy. And this book is set in 1972 in Asbury Park. At the Jersey Shore, and this is a place I know very well. I spent the first 10 years of my life at the Jersey Shore area. So, and we went back very often. And I wanted to bring the reader back to 72. If you're not a Springsteen fan, you probably don't know that in 72 he wasn't famous yet. He was part of the mix. All of the influential musicians that created the Shore sound were all still there, playing in the many venues that Asbury Park had. Uh, the way I remember it, when you cruise the circuit, which means like the young people would take their cars and just sort of drive around and around in a big rectangle. And the way I remember it is every business had music, no matter how small they were, no matter how big they were. So there were lots of opportunities for young people to experience the scene. And it was 73 that he broke through, and things then, of course, changed because then musicians were touring and different combinations were playing together. But 72 was a colorful time, I promise you. The town was once very like a glory spot to vacation in the 20s, but by 1972 it was run down. There was sporadic race rioting, there was crime, drugs, homelessness. At the same time, when areas get run down, they're affordable, and you have often the same kinds of populations who are marginalized and disaffected, but they go to areas like this because they can get cheap rent. And that's why you had sideshow entertainers, musicians, artists. The LGBTQIA community was welcome, right? It was kind of like all kinds of people were welcome. And it made for a really, I keep using the word colorful, but that is the word. It was a wild and colorful time.
Colorful indeed. Who is the protagonist and what makes them compelling or relatable?
Well, I've already mentioned that I am of Irish descent, and I am also from this area. I'm kind of a dime a dozen. Like a Irish Catholic Jersey girl is a cliche. There were a lot of people like us, and my protagonist is Maeve O'Connor. I chose the last name O'Connor because it's one of the most royal names in our history. And Maeve is, she knows she's different, and she's under a lot of pressure. Her family had 6 children. She's the only girl, and she's the oldest. So the expectations on her was, to be the good daughter and help with the kids and all that. But it was also to get married and have children. She wasn't to aspire to anything else. And she really wasn't attracted to um, the sort of rugged boys that her friends were. In fact, she wasn't interested in romance at all. She was going places. She wanted to go to the city, New York City. If you're not from the tri state area, New York City, she wanted to go to the School of Visual Arts for photography. And in that day and age, it just simply wasn't done in my culture. The boys were sent to college, many of the girls were not, but certainly not to be an artist. So her only chance at this is to win a photography contest. The prize is a scholarship to the School of Visual Arts. And she thinks, well, where's the best place for me to get these really original and arresting photographs? Asbury Park. So she talks her parents into letting her get a job at the shore for the summer. And she is trying to discover her 6 perfect photographs to submit to the contest. She's got 90 days, basically. 90 days. Can she do it or not?
Miss Mary, what genre would you classify Down on the South Beach drag as and why?
It's a coming of age tale. Very specifically, it is an LGBTQIA coming of age tale. And it's doing very well. I'm very proud of that. Like, of all my books, this is the one that's turning out to be the bestseller.
Hmm. And how does the novel compare to your previous works in terms of style or subject matter?
My novels are very different than the nonfiction. The nonfiction books are fundraisers for me to raise money for local history projects. This is a very historic area as far as Americans go. My husband's family has been in Vermont 2.5 centuries. So I've just become really interested in local history. So there's that. But how it compares to my other novels is I always seem to create a story where a woman is challenged by extraordinary circumstances and she becomes more, she becomes better as a result. But it's the process, right, that we have to walk through with her.
And were there any challenges you faced while writing this book, and how did you overcome them?
Oh, that's a very good question. Well, I mean, it was done in a year's time. I, I I was a math teacher. I had never taken a writing course before. I wrote two novels before I ever took a writing course, which probably looking back didn't make a lot of sense. But for this book, um, I took a year long graduate level course to write a novel. And so it was written in a year. Now, it wasn't published for five. So there's that whole, dance you do where you try to get an agent and you try to do this and you try to do that. But I've established a really nice relationship with a small printer now, a publisher who was absorbed by the Stable Book Group and then under the umbrella of Simon and Schuster. So it's kind of great. I don't have to worry about it. They took three of my novels. Simon, if you look me up on Simon and Schuster, they have three of my novels, and they'll take the next one. I'm actually working on a sequel because the reaction has been so positive. And people say, well, you can't stop now. I want to know what happens to Maeve and Georgie. And that's fun. I'm just into chapter 3. I did the planning. I'm writing chapters now. And it's really fun because I already know the world they
Fun.
live in.
Yes, fun, fun, fun indeed. And Miss Mary, how did you decide on the title Down on the South Beach Drag?
Um, it's very personal to me. I know the music of the shore, not only the shore sound, but the music of the early 70s. I know it very well. And this is a song. It's an early Springsteen song when I think he was at his most poetic. And I think of that when I think of going home, when I think of driving back to Jersey. I think I want to be down on the South Beach Drive. It's a thing to me that lives inside of me. And so I lent it to my character Maeve, her passion for it, the Jersey Shore.
Interesting, Miss Mary. And are there any specific messages or takeaways you hope readers will get from the book?
Yes, very much so. This is it's everybody says it's a page turner, it's a beach read. It is. That's what I like to read, and that's what I've learned how to create. But under it all is painting a scene, a life, a world with all kinds of different characters, very American people, but many have never met anyone like them. And I hope you come away loving them and honoring their place in the world because they are all pretty much marginalized populations, the characters.
Miss Mary, how do the relationships between characters drive the story forward?
How do they drive the story forward? Well, Maeve meets a boy who is like superstar talented, and he's held back by the fact that he is androgynous. Now that's the word they used in 72. And it was quite a year for androgyny, really, because a lot of the rock stars were experimenting with this, and even like Joan Jett, not just the men, but some of the women. um, but we didn't know a lot about how people can exist between the genders back then. In fact, I never even heard the word gay, right? As far as I knew, nobody in the world was gay, and of course that's not possible. Um, so the relationship between this just alluring and talented young man who doesn't fit in any box and Maeve, who hasn't felt romantic interest in her life. She simply wasn't attracted to any of the people she knew. She meets Georgie, she falls madly in love with him. So that whole her love for him, her pursuit of him, even when it's likely he's chosen somebody else. She still cared about him so much. She'd rather have him in her life as a friend than not have him in her life. So yeah, that's the driving. The love story, I think, is the driver.
Miss Mary, as an author, educator, and an artist, what are your short term and long term goals?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm 70. I just turned 70. Um, I'm I am celebrating as I go on these speaking of events and so forth. I'm celebrating the 7 books in 9 years because being a mother of three, being a teacher for so many years of thousands of kids, there wasn't really time to write. So when I got the time, I just was like a bulldozer. I got it done. So my goals now, I would like to do the sequel. My son is the filmmaker Jonathan C. Hyde. He had a 4-episode limited series on Amazon Prime, as well as a whole career in making commercials. And we're getting we're getting people reaching out saying how visual this novel is, and have we considered a film? And so I'm working on the screenplay. Um, and I have a 6th novel that I had to put in the drawer for a little bit, but that's in like the 4th draft. So I will get around to that as well. But right now we're going to stick with George and Maeve and see where they go in the next book.
Well, good luck to your goals and looking forward for more novels to come, Miss Mary. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author like you, an educator, as well as an artist?
Well, I do have some advice. I can't tell you, I couldn't give you the same roadmap that I followed because publishing is changing every day. I would say do it. Don't make excuses. Don't say you have to build like a cabin to write in or something. No, you don't. You can sit down at the dining room table and you can start. Look for venues. Look up like local papers are always dying for content. It's a great way to use short pieces, get your arms wrapped around what that's like. And of course, the exposure of being an author, it takes getting used to because you're out there. I mean, everybody knows you. Um, but it's right. No other authors. I mean, any group you can put together, even if it's by Zoom, that you can talk to each other, compare notes. It's really important. But just do it. I mean, my first novel is not, people like it, but it's not the novel that Down on the South Beach drag is. And that's because every time I write a book, it's better and uh, I get better. So just sit down and do it.
Thank you for that advice, Miss Mary. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
That influenced me.
Yes.
Well, it's funny. This book gets compared a lot to Daisy Jones and the Six.
Yes.
And I wrote this before I read that. But I think the world of Taylor Jenkins Reid and her writing. So if you haven't read any of her stuff, do it. She's fun.
Definitely. It's fun, and thank you for that recommended book, Miss Mary. And what do you hope readers will feel or think about after finishing Down on the South Beach Drag?
I hope they will hesitate before they criticize others. There's a lot of assumption in the world that we choose our physical circumstances, and often that's not the case. Often you're simply, born in a situation with a certain body, whatever the circumstances are, and you like everybody else. We muddle along, doing the best we can.
Yes, indeed. And Miss Mary, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. So, Miss Mary, are are you already working on your next projects, or if so, can you share any hints about it?
Yeah, I'm working on the sequel to Down on the South Beach Drag and the screenplay for it at the moment.
Nice. And Miss Mary, are there any secondary characters that you feel particularly stand out in the story?
Yes, Orlay. So one of the things I don't think everyone knows that in the United States we have Irish travelers, um, and they can actually, be stereotypical, like be fortune tellers. But really, they're not gypsies. They don't have the same ethnicity, but the lifestyle similar. It's constant travel. And Maeve is related to an Irish traveler named Orlay, and she did never had met her before. She met her getting her fortune told, and it was Orlay. Of course, she's psychic, and she knew that they were related, that they were both from the genetic pool of Tipperary. I think I get a lot of comments about that. I think people are really interested in that culture.
Miss Mary, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
Yes, please. You can find my books wherever books are sold, and the book that just came out is an audiobook as well, and so is The Belonger.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Mary Kathleen Mehuron, because if you support her, for sure, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Miss Mary, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.